I recognized that I was living my life through the lens of a traumatized child. And every decision that I was making from that vantage point was causing me even more pain. Truly, all work is inner work. It doesn't matter what goal you have for yourself. Like becoming the person who is capable of holding and embodying that future that you wish to create, that happens internally before it happens externally. The journey of self-discovery is never ending. You keep evolving, you keep revealing deeper levels of who you are.
Hello, beautiful souls. It is Sophia from Sacred You. Thank you so much for being here. Before we dive into today's podcast, I do have a small request from my heart. If our conversations ever resonate with you or have supported you on your journey, please subscribe to our channel or like this video. It helps us grow Sacred You, welcome more powerful voices into this space, and keep you connected to everything we share. Thank you for walking this path with us. Let us begin with today's conversation. Welcome to the Pathways to Wellbeing. My name's Sophia from Sacred You. And with me today, I have a very wonderful guest, Dr. Crystal Harrell. Thank you, Dr. Crystal, for joining us. I'm really excited to get to chat with you.
Yes, I'm excited to be here with you, Sophia. Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. Now, what's really one of the important things is that you are a Yale PhD. Right, you got your PhD from Yale. You're a best-selling author of many books, which we're going to talk about soon, a TEDx speaker, but you've turned your whole life around because you grew up in public housing and you've gone through so much, and now you're living a life of empowerment and helping others to empower themselves too. So I'd love to know, Dr. Crystal, what first led you to explore the connection between inner healing and real world success. And tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, so this is a very big question, so I'll try to answer it without too many words. But as you mentioned, I did grow up in public housing. I was the seventh born child of 10 children to my parents. And even though we grew up in very financially limited situations, my parents filled our household with so much love. So I wasn't fully aware of how disadvantaged, so to speak, our situation was until I got older and started to connect the dots. And what made things a little bit more apparent was back in 2006 when my father got sick with cancer and ended up losing his life to leukemia. And that was truly the beginning of my journey into myself, because even though I was quite young, I was only 11, I was still very much aware. I always thought it was honestly a curse to be so sensitive as a child, but it opened up different avenues for wisdom and understanding because I was paying attention, so to speak. And so that was truly the beginning of that. So from age 11 to about 23, I was disassociated, dealing with bouts of depression, anxiety. I used to have really bad panic attacks. And when I was 23, I decided that I was going to take that inner journey because I recognized that I was living my life through the lens of a traumatized child. And every decision that I was making from that vantage point was causing me even more pain. And so I didn't know if it was possible to truly heal my nervous system and heal my heart. But I knew that I had to try because I couldn't go on living the way that I was living because it was just too painful. And the worst part was no one knew that I was suffering internally because I did a really good job at covering it up by these achievements, right? And becoming someone who I thought would be worthy of being in certain rooms. And that was like the beginning journey. So hopefully that wasn't too long, but
That wasn't too long at all, and I'd like to go deeper and more, but
of course.
it's such an incredible journey, especially losing father at 11. And now getting to where you are now. So I'd just like to take a moment to really honor you.
Oh, thank you
You
so
are
much.
an inspiration, especially for young adults, especially for young adults, but for all people and women. to really to be able to make the most of your life, to turn your life around, and to lead, not to lead, but to use the trauma that you've experienced in your childhood as like a starting point or a stepping stone to get to where you are now. So the
Yes,
trauma is not controlling your life, but it's powering your life.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I call that process. I'm writing about it now in my third book, Butterflies Everywhere. I'm calling that process soul alchemy. So it's the process of turning pain into power, these different things, fear into purpose, and so many other things. Like we have that power to truly transmute these emotions that are keeping us stuck and catapulting us into more desired realities.
Mm. It's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
And Dr. Crystal, as we know, Lena, a lot of people, especially young adults who are starting off through
yeah,
high school, university, and into jobs, they feel a lot of pressure to succeed, but
yeah,
especially outwardly with degrees and the jobs and recognition and cultural and family pressures,
yes.
expectations. But so many people still feel lost inside. So many
Mm.
people. Why is that? Why do you think that disconnect exists?
That is such a beautiful question. And I can only think about my own journey when I was in that time frame, that young adulthood, feeling lost, feeling disconnected. And the big part of that feeling was that I didn't feel that I could actually turn to anyone and talk about what was going on internally because everyone around me seemed to have it figured out. Everyone was pretending wearing a mask of certainty that I felt that if I was to express my own disconnect, if I was to express my own uncertainty, that I would be further outcasted, I guess, or ostracized. And that was very difficult to experience. So I think that with young adults, which is why I love working with this population, I still do work with young adult mental health and emotional wellness because they are at such a critical point in their developmental process, not just biologically, but also mentally and spiritually. I believe it's Dr. Lisa Miller. She does a lot of work with youth, and she talks about that age frame where youth and young adults are more open to experiencing spirituality. They're more open to exploring different ways of being. And I think that it's just not communicated enough for young adults. I think a lot of people ignore this age group for whatever reason, especially in the US. But it's so critical to pay attention to this age group because they are the future of our society. Like if they're not doing well, then I can't imagine having a society that's going to do well.
And I totally agree.
Yeah.
The younger population is quite often overlooked.
Yes.
It seems there's that period where there's not a lot of wisdom. They haven't had
Mm.
the life experience to
But
gain.
they're so wise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I totally agree
Mm.
with you, totally. So that's why I just like to really honor you again for the work that
Mm.
you're doing, for helping our future generations, the future of our world,
Yeah.
of our planet, to overcome the trauma of their childhood. Because
Yeah.
everyone goes through trauma. We live in such a world
Yeah.
now that doesn't matter where you are brought up and how you are brought up, you still experience different levels of trauma.
This is true.
Everyone. And if we're not able to rectify or heal that trauma in our young adult life, that carries through with us for our entire life.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a time where we can help the younger generation. So I'm
I agree.
excited to get to know you, and let's see what we can help you with as well. What
Yeah.
Sacred You can help you with in your mission. And you talk a lot about deep inner work
Mm.
other than just mindset. But why do you believe deep inner work is so necessary in healing?
Yeah, because truly all work is inner work. It doesn't matter what goal you have for yourself. Like becoming the person who is capable of holding and embodying that future that you wish to create, that happens internally before it happens externally. And I think the reason why a lot of people, at least the reason why I felt disconnected, is because I was trying to chase the outer work. I was trying to prioritize getting the outer achievements instead of prioritizing the way I felt. So every time I would accomplish a goal, I would accomplish that goal, but I would still feel empty and disconnected on the inside because there was no inner work before my awakening, so to speak, in 2018. So the inner work is truly an opportunity for you to know yourself. I believe it was Socrates that said, the beginning of all wisdom is to know thyself. And we truly have to know who we are, because if you don't know who you are, the world will tell you who you are. And I don't think people are going to the definition of who they are that's given to them by the world. We have the choice to express our inner light, our inner creativity, who we are at a deep soul level. But that calls for us, that is what is required for us, is to go within. And that's why I prioritize inner work and I teach my students inner work, because that's the beginning of all work.
And it's so very true.
Yeah.
Love it. It really is true. And agree with you on everything that you just said, that it starts within, because everything
Yeah,
that is going on within us, we manifest or we project outside.
this is true.
And a lot of the world blame everyone else, blame everything externally on what's happening to
Mm,
us without
yes.
actually looking in. Actually, it's within us that if we heal within us inside, then the outside will automatically heal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the way I feel about it is, if you are going to blame the world for the way you feel and for the way your life is, that means that the world is now responsible for giving you the desires of your heart and helping you create a world, helping you create a reality that feels joyous. And I don't want to give someone that power, because no one has that ability to give me the desires of my heart. They don't know what vision was placed in my heart by creation, by source. Yeah, it's so beautiful the way that you talk about this subject as well.
Thank you.
Mm.
And tell us more about your journey, because not only, as we said, you grew up in public housing, you went to
Yeah.
Yale University and got a PhD, but you're also
Mhm.
in the US Army.
Yes.
I don't know how you've been able to fit all this in such a short
Me either.
life, but it is amazing. But how did your journey all through those experiences inform or create the methods that you teach others?
Yes, I was mostly driven by vision, right? So since I was young, I always loved education. My dad was my first educator, and he was the reason why I always had these big dreams of going to school, which were seemingly impossible considering my family background. And I was told that often by educators that going to college was impossible for me. And at some point, I guess I started to believe that. But honestly, when I look back on the journey, it was always the vision. It was always seeing the vision that was placed within my heart, the vision given to me by source, by God, by creation, to have a life that was very different from the life that I was seeing in my environment, that I was seeing around me. And so it was that vision that really caused me to, I probably overdid it a bit because I did burn out a lot. So keep in mind that I'm still on my journey, right? I'm still on that journey of self-discovery. I'm still healing my nervous system. I'm still working through a lot of the things that I experienced growing up, because for 14 years I was disassociated. So there are some things that happened that my body, like I still haven't physically processed or emotionally processed. So there are still things that I'm working through, but the vision never changed. Like everything in my internal environment changed. Where I went to school, how I looked, the people in my life, my friends, the only thing that stayed constant was that vision. And so that is what I advocate for. And no one knows the vision for your life but you. This is why, like, when students come to me, I always encourage them, because I don't know what's possible for them. They only come to me with a vision of succeeding academically. And my goal as a coach, as a mentor, is to help hold that vision for them and to encourage them and to nurture them while they nurture their own vision. So I would say it's definitely a long journey, but for sake of time, I'll just say it was always the vision that has helped me manifest a lot of the things in my life, even though there were so many odds stacked against me.
Mm, mm. Certainly very well driven and purpose driven. A lot of people would have given up in your.
I wanted to several times.
You may have wanted to, but there was that inner purpose, that inner drive that
Yeah,
you're going to get you to where you are now, to help
this is true.
other students and things.
This is true.
Mhm. So tell us more about your student wellbeing project, and how does that help students develop emotional resilience and purpose.
Yeah, so working with students has been a part of my life since I can remember. When I was in high school, I used to mentor young girls at the middle school and the elementary schools, and I just loved how open they were. And I loved the fact that they had just had so much creativity and such a big vision for their lives. So that was something that started very young, but I guess over the years from I was probably like around 15 or 16 during that time up until recently, I recognized that even though I was helping students academically, they would come to me with these academic problems. They were still dealing with so much self-doubt. They were dealing with emotional issues like anxiety. Most of the students that I work with also dealt with depression as well. And they most likely weren't aware of what was going on internally, but it was just all the outside pressure that they were facing and not having the outlet to really express the concerns that they had. And after a while, I just decided that I would turn that into a program where I not only help students academically, but help them emotionally. Because having academic success without the emotional wellness piece is a recipe for disaster. And I know that because I lived it for, I would say, 8 of the 11 years that I was in school pursuing my doctorate. Only the last 3 of them were actually enjoyable. And that's because of the work that I explained in the Student Wellbeing Project and all the emotional healing that took place in that part of my life.
Mm. Certainly very important, isn't it? Very important.
Yes,
Our
very.
mission to heal our emotions, and then it's like they help us with our purpose.
It does. It almost enhances it because I
It,
never stopped going to school. It's just now I was having more fun.
yeah, it's like when we have that purpose, when we have that passion,
Mhm.
we are in alignment with whatever we're doing.
Yes.
But compared to very much different, I think a lot of people in today's world get
Yeah.
caught up, especially now with the age of technology and
Mhm.
AI and everything else, that everything has become so much more quicker that
Yes.
we forgot about our purpose, we forgot about our passion. And a lot of
Yes.
people are just chasing, I don't know, validation,
Hmm.
chasing approval.
Yes.
But how can students, young adults, learn to recognize the difference, like when they are chasing validation compared to walking in alignment with their passion?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And I believe it goes back to that emotional intelligence piece. It goes back to being aware of how certain goals feel in your body. Does this goal that you have, is it creating anxiety or is it creating a sense of fulfillment or a sense of purpose? As I mentioned, like you don't have to change your goal of going to college, but just becoming aware of why you are pursuing this goal and being aware of the way that you feel as you pursue this goal, because your emotional angle is going to determine a lot about how you succeed. Because you can be the smartest student, but if you're not doing well internally, it's not gonna mean much to you in the end of it. I believe students are more intelligent, emotionally intelligent, and definitely more intellectually intelligent than we give them credit. I believe students truly know what they want. They're just waiting for someone to encourage them and to nurture their natural gifts and talents and to remind them of their own ability to succeed in whatever situation it is. Students are very wise, they're very aware, but that's not something that's necessarily always celebrated. And I know for a fact, American culture, students are mostly being told what to do and who to be, and they don't want that. Nobody wants that.
No, they don't. They don't. People
Yeah.
be able to identify for themselves,
Yes,
rather than people telling us how we should be and what we should do and everything else.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. And young adulthood is that time where they're starting to explore who they are and who they're becoming.
absolutely. And for someone who is feeling disconnected or
Mm,
unsure of their purpose, what do you think
mm.
is the first question that they could ask themselves to get back into alignment with who they really are?
It's that simple, asking, who am I? Journaling is one of those practices that I advocate for because it's been a staple in my life. Like I've journaled since I was very little and journaled almost every day since losing my dad. And it's helped me really reflect on that question, who am I? So when you're going back and reading old journal entries, you start to look at yourself from a more objective standpoint and starting to see, wow, this is the way my emotional patterns work. This is who I am. And so asking that question, whether you ask it verbally or you write it down, is so important because as you ask, you really do start to get clues and hints because you're aware of it, right? Like, even if you're not so much spiritual, but you look at the more scientific, we have something like the reticular activating system, which filters through our environment and brings to us the very things that we are intentional about. So if you're intentional about becoming aware of yourself, your authentic self, things in your environment will start to come to you, whether that's a book that you pick up and you start to read and you start to gain more clarity, or a podcast interview or something, or someone says something to you that really holds a mirror. Paying attention is the most important part of that. So asking the question and then paying attention to the responses that starts to come from your external environment, and even the external environment, what it's highlighting within you about your truth.
Yeah, totally agree. And journaling is such a wonderful way of
Yeah,
releasing those past emotions and
absolutely.
and also reconnecting with our purpose.
Yeah.
Do you recommend any other practice that would help people to reconnect with their inner self?
Definitely meditation and mindfulness. There's been so much research about mindfulness and meditation and the effects that it has on our emotional health, especially for young adults and even the generation after young adults, like our youth. It has such profound effects on their emotional and mental health. But I think that a lot of people think that meditation is just sitting cross-legged and just waiting for answers to come to you, but it's so much deeper than that. I like to describe it as a way of being. And there's a author called Thich Nhat Hanh. He writes a lot of books on mindfulness and meditation. But one book I recommend if you are interested in learning more about mindfulness and meditation techniques is reading his book, Peace is Every Step. And he goes over different mindfulness practices. Like, one is the walking meditation, being out in nature, not allowing yourself to be distracted by phone calls or reels or whatever you're watching on your phone. Totally just you and nature and just walking and being aware of each step, being aware of your breath as you're walking. Another one is like when you're washing the dishes, like being aware of the suds as they wash over the plates and pans. And it's so interesting to know that every task that you do can be mindful if you're aware. And that's a book that I would recommend. But there are so many practices. You just have to figure out what feels good in your body. And no one can tell you that. It's up to you to explore. But that's the exciting part.
It is, and I agree with you again, meditation and mindfulness and journaling to me
Mm,
are the foundation of our
yes.
days. If we can spend, even if it's just 5 minutes, I know so many
Mm,
people, I don't have time. It's not about meditating, sitting cross-legged for an hour.
yeah.
It's just getting those little bits of time, even if it's 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there, it
Yeah.
really helps. So thank
I agree.
you. Yeah. Now let's move on to your books.
Yeah.
Onto your books. Do you have them there with you?
Yeah, so this one here is the first book that's crystal clear. And I wrote that book as a guide for students who had goals. My goal, as we discussed earlier, was just to go to college. I just wanted to go to school and I wanted to continue learning because learning was a bond that I shared with my dad, and it was very something I held very near to me. And so I wrote that book because students kept coming to me asking the same questions, like, how did you do it? And I wanted to give them a guide for how it was, because I know that on the outside it looked like everything came easily, but there was a lot of work that went into that process, and I wanted to tell the truth. And then my children's book, A Girl and Her Dad, was written for my father to basically highlight the bond that parents can have with their children and really highlight the emotional development that happens when parents are present in their child's life. And my dad was an incredible father. Like, he was the type of dad that would tuck you in at night. He said the Lord's Prayer every night. He was emotionally present and physically present. And I know that I got truly blessed to be his daughter. And I just wanted to highlight that in the children's book and share with other dads and little girls who also share a similar bond. And then my third book, Butterflies Everywhere, is currently in publication. So I'm still working on that. But that was written during this period in my time where there's so many transitions, there's so many things changing since graduating and since finishing my doctorate. I went through this huge kind of death and rebirth process, which I'm still in the midst of now. So there's a lot of wisdom and insights that have come up from within me that I just wasn't aware of, right? You don't know what you don't know. So I'm always learning new things about myself. And when you start your journey, if you're on it now, you know that you never stop learning. The journey of self-discovery is never ending. You keep evolving, you keep revealing deeper levels of who you are. And so that book it's really just helping people who are also in the midst of transition and using those transitions to truly transform, because change is always constant, but you can become someone new in the midst of that change.
You certainly can. And yes, change is
Mm,
always constant. I personally
yeah.
believe life would get a bit boring if we continued to change. So yes, thank you for sharing that. And I'd
Yeah.
love to know, Dr. Crystal, your books.
Yeah.
I know you wrote a lot of personal things and your
Yeah.
whole life inspired your books, but what part of your own story
Mm.
you find the hardest to share in your writing, and why was it important to include it?
I would say the hardest thing that I ever had to share was my first book, because I told the whole story about the depression, the anxiety, and I wrote that book during the time where, like I said, I had just gotten into Yale, and on the outside, it looked like everything was going good throughout my entire academic, I guess, journey, but I was suffering in silence. And so that book was the hardest thing I had to do. It was harder than writing my dissertation because that was the first time I had to face my own shadow. I had to face the pain that I experienced after losing my dad and how that event drove me to become this overachiever and to push towards my dream, because I was honestly afraid. I was afraid that I wasn't going to get out of that situation, that I was going to have to stay stuck in cycles of lack and poverty. And I didn't want that for myself. And so I would say that was the hardest part of my journey, because no one really knew about it except for the people closest to me. And I was writing that book and sharing it with people I didn't know. So it required me to be very vulnerable. And that was very difficult to do initially.
And very healing.
Oh yeah, I felt so much lighter after that book.
When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and to share
Yeah,
things, it's actually a very healing experience. So thank you.
I agree.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Your younger self, Dr. Crystal, that little girl who grew up in the public housing,
Mm.
see you now, what would you say to her?
This question is gonna make me cry, Sophia.
It's fine because it's real.
Wow. The little girl, what would I say to her? What would she say to me?
What would you say to her?
I would tell her that it all worked out. I would tell her that she became the woman that she always saw in her visions. And she became someone that would have protected her from the things that hurt her in her childhood. I would remind her of her capabilities, of her competence. I would remind her that she's enough and that she's going to continue to grow and change. But the fact that she is enough will never change. She will always remain worthy of being loved. There's so many things I would mostly hold her.
And we all need to hold our,
Yeah.
our little girls. So yes, thank you. And what would she say to you?
She would probably say, wow, you're so beautiful. Because I never felt beautiful as a child, to be honest. I was bullied for being weird looking and ugly. Kids would always tease me. So I think she would be very shocked that I ended up growing into such a beautiful, not just externally, but inside and out, that my heart it never changed. I still remained open. I still remained light despite all the pain. And I think she would be shocked at that. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And now, Dr. Crystal, now that you've gone through that and you're out on the other side and you're helping other young people, would you
Yeah.
like to share what does a typical day for you look like? How, especially in the mornings, how do you start your day? And how do you end your day too? Because that's also very important.
Yeah. So basically, for the last, I would say 2, 3 weeks, I ended up joining a mindfulness community where we do morning and evening meditations. I usually try to do this by myself, but I find that having a community makes it a little bit more solid. I find myself showing up more now that I have some accountability. So I would say my morning and my days, like most people who are business owners, it's not too crazy. You wake up, I like to wake up and start with a morning meditation. So that's around 8 o'clock. I try to get up a little bit before then. I'm not a morning bird, so that's difficult sometimes. But I always wake up and I show up for my morning meditations. And then after that, I get into my work. I try to do focus work in the mornings because it's just much easier to have that space for myself when I'm right out of that meditation. And then the afternoons, I take breaks during the day. Like I don't work as hard as I used to. And maybe that's just because I'm at a point in my life where I feel like I don't have to, because I burnt myself out trying to work mostly from survival. And now I'm working more so from a space of thriving, from a place of recognizing that everything I have, everything I need, I already have. It's just a matter of letting it manifest. Almost like you would see a rose blossom. Everything is blossoming in perfect time and divine timing. So there's no need to rush the blossoming. There's no need to force it. Just allow. So mostly from day to day, it shifts, but usually I work during the day and then in the evenings, I try to go to the beach or read some. And I'm constantly listening to interviews of CEOs and interviews of people who have transformed their lives because I want to learn from them. So it's honestly just me constantly pouring into myself.
Thank you. And it's good. And it doesn't matter whether you are a morning person or not, but
Yeah,
starting off that day with the meditation, no matter what time your day starts, it certainly sets
true.
the foundation for it.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people, that when the book, The 5 a.m. Club came out, I know that was like a trending thing, people waking up at 5, but I'm just one of those people where I feel that it doesn't matter how early you get up, if you're not doing anything, if you're not productive during the day, what's the point of waking up that early? So I know that when I'm up, I'm productive. I don't need 5 hours to do a task that only takes 1 hour.
Yeah, yeah. It really depends on your own internal clock.
Yes,
Some
true.
people are morning people, and some people are morning people, and some people love the nights.
Yes, I
You're-
love the night.
And tell us more about the inner work.
Mm.
Is there anything else that you would like to share on what the inner work can be? How do we achieve that inner work before focusing on the outer?
Yeah, so I don't know if I touched on this earlier, but everyone's path is so unique. Like the process of going internal is across the board the same. Like that intention to go from focusing on external validation and external achievement to turning it around to figuring out who am I internally? How am I expressing myself? That intention is the same for everyone who embarks on this journey. But the process, the how, is something that no one can tell you because it is so unique. It's as unique as your fingerprint. There are different techniques and different practices to use, but that process is going to be related to what comes up within you that is needing to be healed. And I know a lot of people, I know for me at least, when I first started, I was so obsessed with healing myself and doing the inner work that I was looking for opportunities to fix myself, to where it became almost like this game almost to figure out how healed I could become. But nothing really had changed because again, I was focused on the external. I was focused on how well I was going to show up once I was fully healed, which at this point in my journey, I think that I started to realize that you're never fully healed. You evolve, you transform. But when I think about my dad, I still miss him. When I think about how we grew up, it still hurts a little bit to know that we were in such difficult situations that my parents had to sacrifice so much for us. That still comes up, but everybody's path is different. It depends on what you went through, what's coming up for you to be processed, because those emotions will come up almost like a steel river. As you still yourself, what needs to be healed will start to rise to the top. And so it's a process of truly working on those things as they come, not making a game out of trying to fix yourself because you're not broken. Your spiritual DNA is 100% perfect, but we've had these lived experiences that sometimes cause us to feel like we're not enough. And those lived experiences are trying to be processed through your body, through your psyche. And it's up to us to let go and to let that process happen. But reading books will change your entire life. Books like The Mountain Is You by Brianna Weiss, books like The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. Just start there. Like those two books alone will help you process so much of the emotions that come up as you start your healing journey.
I have to totally.
Yes, that
Untitled
book changed my entire life.
is one of the most powerful books
Yes,
I've ever read. So thoroughly agree.
same.
Everyone out there who is listening, take Dr. Crystal's advice. Go get yourself a copy of this, The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. Incredible. And also The Surrendered Experiment that
Yes.
you wrote was incredible as well. Yes. So
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you. I was just
No, it's okay. I get excited like that too.
yeah. And yeah, totally agree. It certainly helps you. It's a whole different concept of the mind and how to make friends with your mind. Total
Yes.
concept.
Yes. Because our mind, the way we speak to ourselves, I found is a echo of how we've been spoken to. So I got to a point in my journey where I started to realize that the voice in my head was not my voice. That was other people's projections that I had internalized and made my own voice. I was not very nice to myself. So now I speak more kindly. And it's so funny because when you stop fighting life, life stops fighting you and you become friends, you become allies in this journey of self-discovery. And I think at that point, you've really unlocked something incredible.
Yes, totally agree. I'm just writing that down. Basically,
Yeah.
become friends with your life.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Mm.
thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's really exciting. And Dr. Crystal, before we wrap up and say goodbye, can I ask you,
Mm.
what does the pathway to well-being mean for you?
I would say the pathway to well-being is exactly what we discussed during this entire interview. It's getting to know first, who am I and what vision do I have for my life? And also taking the steps, doing the inner work, reading the books, listening to the podcasts that help you liberate the parts of you that are keeping you, that are blocking you truly from expressing that vision. Because once you start walking in your calling, once you start showing up for yourself and you stop betraying yourself and abandoning yourself, you start feeling well. Like health and wellness and well-being, these are natural states. These are natural healing states. These are natural states for the human being. But there are so many things sometimes that keep us from expressing that health and wellness. And but the beautiful thing about that is those blocks don't have to remain. There are different ways of working through them, and you don't have to do it by yourself because there's been someone before you who has gone down that path of healing those blocks, like Michael Singer. Like his work is incredible for that reason, is because he's done the inner work. So learn from people who have done the inner work. Learn from people who not only have success monetarily, like that monetary success, but they also have emotional wellness. They also have beautiful relationships because they have a lot to teach and they don't mind teaching it. That's why they write books and why they do podcasts and make seminars. The path to wellness looks like you, the truest expression of who you were created to be.
I love that. The path of wellness looks like you, who you really
Yeah.
were created to be. Thank you for that. And is there any other question that I could have asked you? And how would you have answered?
Oh, that's cool. I don't think I've ever gotten that question. Your questions are honestly phenomenal, Sophia. It's caused me to really reflect. So I would say that I can't think of any now. I'm just grateful to be here and to help whoever I can and to express this journey because it's like I said, it's never ending, but it's so beautiful once you start.
It is, and it is. It's for some people, it's scary.
It is
For
scary.
people, I think we're very good at avoiding it because we don't want to touch what's in there. Uh,
Hmm.
but like you said, when you actually start, it's very beautiful. So thank you.
Yes.
Tell us more,
Thank
a little bit more about your actual, what you actually offer and your business. Now, we will be putting all your links below. So for everyone who is watching or listening to our podcast today, do click on the links and check out everything that Dr. Crystal has to offer. But tell us, when people contact you, what can they expect to receive?
Yeah, so right now, as I mentioned previously, I'm going through this huge transition, this huge transformation, and what I offer is also transitioning, it's also changing. Right now, I still have the Student Wellbeing Project where we have monthly live Q&As. I just call them office hours with Dr. Crystal, where students can come ask me anything. If you have questions about getting into grad school, getting into college, writing a scholarship essay, it doesn't matter what question it is, even if it's not directly academically related, you can come ask me anything. So I just keep that space open once a month for my students. And if they email me or join my email list, they'll find out more details about when we host those Q&As. And then I also have the books that I mentioned. So those are on my website, crystaltharrell.com. And up at the top, you'll see a tab that says books, and you can choose that. I also have different products. My sisters and I own the holistic health and beauty company. So we're still building that. So yeah, like different things, but I'm still growing, still developing more offerings. I'm right now working on an app to help students succeed. So where every student has a personal academic success coach, what I do with students, but students will have a more tailored experience. So that's something in the works right now. So different offerings based off of where you are. But if you join my email list, you can send me an email at any time if you have any questions.
And your health and beauty products certainly work. You are an example, a walking, living example of them. So thank you for sharing that. We will be putting all your links below. Thank you, Dr. Crystal. It has been a real honor to chat with you today. And I do hope that you come back, especially if you have any more books coming out. Definitely come back and let's talk about that when your next projects, anything, please do come back and share it with the Sacred You community. We are honored to have you here today.
Oh, I was saying thank you so much for having me. I'm incredibly honored to be here with you and your audience. And I would love to come back because your questions are phenomenal. And I love the intention that you put behind each of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a joy. Oh my God, what a wonderful and inspiring conversation with Dr. Crystal, who is an incredible example of how we can turn our life around. From growing up in public housing to gaining a PhD from Yale University and now helping other young adults to find their purpose and passion in life by healing from within. Reach out to Dr. Crystal, even if it is just for a chat. Visit her website to explore everything that she has to offer, including her books and the Students' Wellbeing Project. All the links are below. And for more empowering conversations, tools, and strategies, do follow Sacred You on all the social media or visit our website at www.sacredyou, that's the letter U, .love. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button or give us a like so that you never miss another episode. In Dr. Crystal's own words, become friends with your life. Thank you so much for tuning in today's podcast. Stay grounded, stay inspired, stay connected, and until next time, keep walking your pathway to well-being.